Hello. So, this is a message that I had for today to my viewers. Today, I want to talk about what is currently happening in our country and how we came to this catastrophic moment that is happening. Now, this is what happened. In politics, when you vote for a leader, there is something called the Knight of the Long Swords. Any leader who is chosen or king, after he is chosen into a seat, he has to ensure that when he or she has seized the instruments of power, he or she has to vanquish all the people who made him or her take that seat. By this, I mean that he has to destroy their lives and their livelihoods. Why? This is a law of power in the world that for you to succeed in your leadership or in your kingship, you have to destroy your friends who brought you to power so that they are not able to choose another leader. And that's where you find that there's a lot of betrayal in the politics of Kenya. That is the nature of the spirit that the leaders who we choose here in Kenya have, and that is the nature of power. For power in this earth, or power that is given to rule over the flesh, is mainly negative power in nature. It's not powers that are ordained from the Most High. So, what happened in Kenya is that the kingmakers or the people who made our president to become the ruler were mainly the church. The church are the people who gave our leader his power. And what happened is Ruto, having seized power, he was supposed from the natural law of power to destroy those who made him the king. So Ruto had to destroy the kingmakers. But now the problem is the kingmakers were spiritual in nature. They were religious. Okay, it was not flesh. It was a spirit that made Ruto to come into power. So our president was not able to totally vanquish the kingmakers, unlike other dispensation or other leaders who are able to destroy their kingmakers. If you look at Kibaki, Kibaki was able to destroy all his or her kingmakers. If you look at Kenyatta, he was able to destroy Jaramogi. If you look at Moi, Moi was able to destroy all his kingmakers, and that's why there was a coup and he was able to rule for 24 years. So, a parallel example of this is found in the Bible, and this is what is going to happen in Kenya. You should go and read Exodus chapter 8, the whole of that chapter, but verses 19. And this is what this verse says. It says that Pharaoh, when he was confronted by the plagues that were being brought by God through Moses, he was able to call his magicians, and he always paid his magicians to go and also to perform counter. I'm sorry to say, he was able to call the magicians, and the magicians were able to perform counter rituals, which were able to mask those which Moses performed, as what is happening currently in Kenya. Our president is still summoning the quote-unquote religious church leaders to go to State House in order to counter the popular mass movement that is coming up. So this is what happened, is that when the plagues became worse and worse, the magicians were able to stand up and tell Pharaoh where it has reached. This is the finger of God. And they were able to leave Pharaoh, and from that time henceforth, they never performed counter rituals. Why? Because they came to an understanding that this was the works and functionings of God. So, what will happen to Kenya is that the plagues will become worse and worse, and after this, you'll see even the church leaders and the leadership will abandon our dear president. Why? They will abandon him because it will reach a point that they themselves, under instruction from the Most High, or through their perceived knowledge of God, will come to the realization that it's reached a time and an epoch whereby Ruto is going to be destroyed by the forces that God has ordained to come up and to change the systems that are in Kenya. So what I'm trying to tell people here is that what we have in Kenya is a king who was not able to destroy his or her kingmakers. He was not able to totally vanquish them, and this is what is currently happening in Kenya because the kingmakers were powers who brought him, and they were more powerful than the throne that he bears. And what will happen is that Ruto, by the nature of the system that he oversees, he will be forced, if he wants to survive, to change that system that brought him to power in order to survive, of which the Gen Zs offered Ruto a solution. And this solution came in form of the protests, which the Gen Z advocated for Ruto to change the government. But our president failed. He failed utterly. And this is what I want to tell the Gen Zs something about a deep secret that they don't understand. The Gen Zs or my generation should understand that we are educated, and with our education, we are not here to ask or to find jobs. What we are here actually to do is that we are here to form new systems. We are here to start and incubate new companies and new ideas that will help the subsequent and the coming system of government that is going to operate. That is the work of the Gen Z. So the Gen Z, as much as they are protesting, the Gen Zs are trying to, in quotes, save this system that tells people and directs people that you need a job to succeed in life. That's what the Gen Z are trying to tell Ruto. Okay, give us jobs. Yeah, fix the government system. What I want to tell my fellow youth is that you cannot fix this system. This system is deep, it is rotten, and it has its kings and kings makers, as you have seen in the previous week, how they were able to come together and consolidate in order to save this system because they depend this system for their milk and butter. And if this system goes, a lot of people will lose their careers, a lot of people will become desolate, and a lot of people, their brokership power will end. And this will bring a lot of misery and poverty in their lives, of which majority of them, I'm sorry to say, they have sworn to protect this system with their life. They themselves, they have sworn to protect this system in their life. But the hand of God is moving in such a manner that the system of government that is in operation has expired. By this I mean that spiritually this system has expired and this system cannot function anymore because it has deviated from its true nature and its true course. The work of the government is to govern. The work of the government or the work of the leaders who are chosen is to create a conducive environment where the people or the masses can function in this government. By this I mean that the government is there to create policies and laws and regulations that will enable the people to function. But what happens when a government fails at its basic and its most important idea of its function is that it naturally loses its power. And this is what has happened to our government. Our government deviated from its true purpose, its true natures, together with the church. They deviated from their true purpose. Their purpose was to govern, their purpose was to form laws that will support their people in their daily activity. But they deviated to other things, to building cathedrals and building hospitals and building roads, yeah, and building schools and building other forms of function and ideas, which actually the masses were supposed to build them in a conducive environment. But the government has utterly failed, and spiritually, what it denotes is that a new government has been placed, but it's waiting to manifest physically. So, this is what I have to say, and I have to tell my listeners again, thank you for listening to this podcast.